They're always having conversations and they're doing.
Can you look at the camera?
Welcome back to the Dr. Z show. Jacob is dying.
I have 30 minutes to live.
So he'll die on air, on the show.
I have super pneumonia.
Super pneumonia! It's stronger than regular pneumonia.
Yeah. But it's,
Do you actually have pneumonia? Or you're just sick?
No, I'm just sick. It's like
You have man flu!
It's like a cold. Or maybe a flu. Like, I don't normally get the aches when I have a cold, so I think it might be a flu. But I was also thinking the super flu, or not the super flu, the super pneumonia is its one weakness is a rock from its home world that got blown up.
Okay, I was like, where are we going with that? And we went to a Superman reference, so that's fine.
I wanted to make some kind of joke relating like kryptonite and drugs.
So here we go though with the secret backstory DLC though. You haven't consumed enough nickels.
That's true. This isn't secret backstory. Like if you're an actual fan, if you're a hardcore fan, and
you're a hardcore Dr. Z show fan, you know what the hell we're talking about.
Reference from like almost a year ago.
Not quite.
Yeah, 9 months.
It's not April yet.
It's enough. The joke lasted long enough, and it has been born now. It spent 9 months in the joke womb.
The joke womb.
The joke womb.
This is gonna get worse before it gets better, I'm sure.
No, you won't let it. Trust me, because I won't let it. Because like the thing is, I could keep pushing for this, but.
Well, it was like the other day, like, and I wish we could recreate this kind of stuff on air. It's like the other day when you, like, randomly went off on some tangent. I'm, like, eating lunch, and Jacob messages me on Facebook, and, like, what was, I gotta look it up, what you said, because it was hilarious. But it was, like, out of nowhere. We're, like, talking about, yeah, okay, so I was like, I'm gonna call you on the phone, and he just starts, like, capitalized typing, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then I decided to just roll with it, and it went on for like 15 minutes of us like yelling at each other.
It was because
I had Claire read it the other day, and she laughed until she was crying.
Nice.
She was mad because she gave herself the hiccups. She was laughing too hard. I was like, I don't know what to tell you.
It was because you said, let me call you in an hour, and then you said on the telephone, and then
I just want you to think that I was calling you on Facebook Messenger or like on Skype or something.
Yeah, but then I thought, like, because of just infinite puns and word association, I thought yellophone, like the yellophone, and
so you went to an old man yelling.
There. It was like I was pretending to be an old man. Yelling into his phone
for the doctor,
and admittedly, I did.
Hang up and die.
The voice that I thought of for the old man was Bernie Sanders.
Wow, that's very specific.
Not my normal old man voice.
Right.
Well,
but
because
specifically Bernie Sanders' voice.
Because he's
he's
He's the king of yelling as well.
He's the king of yelling?
He's the king of yelling.
He wins at yelling.
Yeah, he is drunk in the power thirst.
Old hat YouTube. I'm about it.
Yeah. Down a couple of cases before every debate. It's actually
I like the fake drama between him and Elizabeth Warren, though. After the presidential debate.
Yeah.
Sigh. Oh, so this is related to that, though. I decided to start posting, like, more and more extreme, like, political comments on my Facebook. Just, like, to let my friends list sort of, like, weed itself out.
Yeah.
And, after the last post I made, like I checked today, and like 15 people had like disappeared off my friends list. I was like, yeah, getting it. Because I'm too lazy to go through my friends list because I have like 500 some people on it.
Yeah.
And like, I always like delete people, and then like I'm about to delete someone. I'm like, is there ever a circumstance where I would need to contact this person for something? And then my brain always makes up some like super contrived scenario where I like need to talk to this one person about a specific thing that like only they would know about.
They're my friend who knows about yak's milk, and I might to know someday.
Not that contrived, but getting there. Like pretty contrived.
I have this one friend who knows specifically about the 1980 Brooklyn Dodgers like season, and then I have this other friend who like knows a lot about Subarus. So I keep them on my Facebook friends list.
Actually, my
friend
that knows a lot about Subarus is my sister's boyfriend.
Well, that's good.
He's the Facebook friend that knows a lot about Subarus.
I hope he doesn't judge me for having a Subaru that I'm like I like but don't care about in the way that like some people care about their Subarus. Some people are like really into they're like, I have a Subaru and it's the best thing ever and I will evangelize it and I'm gonna like modify it and it's exciting and wow, Subarus, Subies. Like but then there's like me who just is like, oh, it has good ratings, like it's the same great, like good gas mileage, good car. Like that was all that.
While I was there. I mean, it wasn't like the greatest car that I've ever driven in my entire life, but
It was closer to out of all of the cars that I drove, it had the closest handling to the car that I had in high school that I really liked. So it was an Oldsmobile, a white Oldsmobile.
Oh yeah.
I love the handling on that car. It's so good.
I forgot about the white Oldsmobile.
And it had a
Still
really
have
good
that
sound
car?
system for no reason.
Do your parents still have that car, or is it like
I think it's gone. I think it eventually
it
kicked.
died?
Yeah.
That's too bad. It was a good
Yeah.
car.
It had a really good sound system for no reason that I could think of. Like and it hadn't been modded or anything. It was just like the standard
Yeah,
the
the
vehicle.
standard
And for some reason the
sponsor.
bass mixing was really good and everything on it. Like,
Even though you were always messing with it.
Yeah.
Weird. I don't know. I need to. That reminds me though. Like before everybody comes for the wedding and like people are riding around in my car, like all day for 4 or 5 days straight. I really need to get a shop vac and just like
clean out your car.
clean out my entire car because Patch's hair is like
Yeah.
everywhere in that car. Like it's on the dashboard, like it's on the windshield, on the inside, like it's everywhere in the car. Yeah, you, dog, your hair is everywhere in my car. Why is that? Right, it's because you shed.
I distinctly heard him say because I shed. He is right.
He could be a really good therapy dog. I don't know why I'm just thinking of this now. But like anytime I'm like upset about something and I like raise my voice a little bit, he always like comes over to me, like no matter what it is, unless it's at him, he always like comes over to me and like puts his paws on me and like suddenly is interested in what I'm doing and like where I'm sitting or whatever. And I thought about this the other day because I was like mad about some bullshit, and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck!" like yelling about it, and he like came over and like wanted to sit on my lap, and I was like, "Huh, okay, this is a theme."
This is nice.
Yeah, he cares about me, but he does not care about me unless my wife is at home. Yeah, I was like, I was telling you earlier, like he loves to play, especially with his like purple bone that he has. He loves to play. Like, he's Australian Shepherd Corgi mix. Like, he's a very high energy animal. But unless both Claire and I are at home, he's like, I don't give a fuck. And just like lays down wherever and just sleeps until we're both home. And then he's like, it's fucking playtime. Like, now. And I don't know why that is. Like, he'll play with one of us, like if we like sort of coax him into it for like a couple minutes, like maybe like 10 minutes, and then he's like, nah, I'm done. This isn't exciting enough. There aren't enough humans to admire me.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking is maybe in his mind, if there's only 2 of you, then it's not a pack. And he's like, this isn't a pack. This is boring. But if there's
if it's just him and one of us.
Yeah, but if there's 3, he's like, oh, like we're a pack now. We're a real family. That means we can do exciting things.
There might actually be something to that because he's a herding animal. So there might be something in that actually. Except I always wear like work pants or jeans, like, and I feel like I've been wearing them forever because I feel like the last time I wore shorts was 9 years ago, even though it was the summer. But the summer feels like it was 9 years ago. So he like jumps up and I'm like, oh, whatever, like don't even notice. But Claire's always like wearing leggings or like really tight like sweatpants or something, and she jumps on Claire and Claire's like screaming in pain. I mean, he's got claws, like
Yeah.
little talons.
I mean, summer was 9 years ago. You forgot about the nuclear winter we've been living in.
Oh right, yeah, that might actually happen in a couple months.
December the 1st, 2808. Doomsday.
Not sponsored by whoever could possibly sponsor that.
No.
Anyway, speaking of Doomsday, here's a good segue. Speaking of Doomsday, we
And
are here
Superman
today.
Returning. We return with the Superman connections. Vaguely.
What?
Doomsday. Superman.
But you referenced Nero's Doomsday.
Exactly. And then we were talking about the Vatican off record. So like Nero, Italy, Rome, it's all coming together.
I imagine that wall behind you, like, isn't actually there. You like took a picture of it and paste it over like
this
map
is
of conspiracies that are all connected together with yarn or some shit. That screen cap meme of I think it's like Always Sunny in Philadelphia where he's like looking at it, he's like, that's you right now.
Yeah.
It's all connected. Yeah, that's the actual recorded bit of, or the written down bit of the Dr. Z show, is we actually we've developed a way to connect whatever random bullshit we talk about at the beginning of the show to everything else we're going to talk about. Instead of just
which,
like
oddly enough, has been happening more and more
That's
lately,
actually
which
true.
is kind of disturbing.
It's actually true. It's been happening a lot. But now that we're mentioning it, it's not going to happen for like
Another 9 years when the nuclear winter is over.
Sure.
We all know that nuclear winters last exactly 18 years.
Right.
Anyway, let's talk about smart devices.
Yes, so we're going to talk about smart devices today because we said last time that we would talk about smart devices on the next show. And this might be one of the like 2 shows where we actually talk about what we say we're going to talk about at the end of the last episode. So, smart devices. We pulled up an article that's not very like, it's not super in depth, but it does bring up like some good points, and the main point it brings up the beginning of the article, and I will link to the article in the description after the video. But it does bring up Ray Bradbury, the author. He wrote Fahrenheit 451, Martian Chronicles, and There Will Come Soft Rains. And I'll talk about Fahrenheit 451 because it's probably like the book that most people have read. Of those like 3,
Yeah.
he talks about like the the TVs in the house like being like the wall screens or whatever, and they can just like they're just activated by like someone being in the room, or like there's no like remotes, and so they just like know to activate the television. And this is like very popular in a lot of science fiction, is like these smart devices that just like they just turn on when you enter the room, or like you say a couple words, and like sort of like in the Iron Man and like in the Avengers movies when he's like talking to Jarvis.
Yeah.
That, but like on a smaller scale. But the more and more this technology is like smart technology is like developing, the more and more like we're reaching like the singularity smart device, not like the singularity like consciousness, but
Yeah.
like the singularity like smart device, where you'll just have one device that just like turns on everything in your house. But we'll get back to that like later. I'm getting way ahead of myself. But anyway, in Ray Bradbury's There Will Come Softly When It Rains, he talks about a house that continues to function on its own, just autonomously, long after humans have died out. And I went back and read that in between the last time we recorded, because you sent me this article, and then I was like, oh, like that short story, like, and I went and found it in the Ray Bradbury book that I have, and read it, and it reminded me, like, more recently from in between the time I read it the first time and reading it recently, it reminded me a lot of Fallout 4. Have you played Fallout 4 yet?
I've not played any of the Fallout games.
Okay, so this isn't like a huge like spoiler, but like if you don't want to know about the first like 5 minutes of Fallout 4, like skip ahead. But so in Fallout 4 you start before the nuclear like holocaust like actually happens, which is the first for the Fallout series. And you have this like butler robot thing, and then like, oh no, like the bombs, like the alarms are going off, and you run to the vault, and like the vault's like right up the hill from where you live. And then you get out, like stuff happens, and then you get out of the vault, and you go back to where your home is, and the robot is still there, and it's been like 200 years or something, and like the robot's still there, like trimming the hedges and like trying to clean your house. And that's like sort of like terrifyingly, that's very Ray Bradbury writing. And that's what, like, when I went back and reread There Will Come Softly When It Rains, that's what I thought of. And I was like, oh wow, that's exactly like Cogsworth in Fallout, but on a much like larger, like entire house scale.
I thought of Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast.
Codsworth.
Cod-
Not Cogsworth. Codsworth.
Codsworth. Okay.
Yeah.
He's
Name of the
worth fish, not cogs. Anyways,
Right.
Ray Bradbury. Yeah, there was a lot of
time as a writer.
I mean, just talking about the development of technology, because smart technology is the big tech.
The new
thing.
hotness.
It is the new hotness. A lot of technology was inspired by just people like I can't remember. Is it Jules Verne wrote about?
Oh, he was 20
Moon and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea
and Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah. So far, Journey to the Center of the Earth is the only one that hasn't really made sense in terms of like tracking with actual developments in technology. Like we're definitely trying to get to the ocean floor.
But that's because like Journey to the Center of the Earth like has kind of a
fantastical element to it.
Yeah, the like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea definitely, but like giant squids appear in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and like for years people were like, oh, yeah, giant squid, and then they were like, oh, that actually is a thing.
Which
and then for years
funny.
people were like, going to the moon, like yeah, whatever, and like we've been to the moon. And if you're a moon conspiracy theorist that like believes that there is no moon or that we haven't been to the moon, like punch yourself in the throat.
Ha! You still believe in
the moon? Yeah, we haven't been to the moon. Oh, you believe in the moon?
You
Yeah,
believe-
but Journey to the Center of the Earth
I-
has the most of those three. Definitely has like the most fantastical element about like the Earth being hollow and like there's like other creatures and like treasure and all kinds of shit that's going on in that book. That book,
dinosaurs
like,
and,
yeah, that book's super bizarre. It's been a
um,
really long time since I read it though, because it's so slow in the beginning. Like it's so slow. Oh, it just drags. The first like 10 chapters are him just like dicking around in his house. And it's just like, just start the journey already. Like, it's terrible. I don't like it.
I was just thinking about the giant squids thing. How on all of the old maps of the world, it was always like, oh, and don't go in the oceans. They're scary, and there's things in them, and they're big and scary. And then everyone was like,
dragons.
I mean, it's fine. There's like sharks, maybe. Whales, we'll kill them. Like we've done all the things. And then as science has gotten to the point where we could really go further and further down, we're like, oh no,
Shit.
the ocean is full of scary things. They were right all those years ago.
Since
Like,
we're not going to mention his first name on the show, did you ever take oceanography with Dr. Kinder?
No, I didn't.
I remember I took oceanography because I didn't want to take a different science. I think my choices were like oceanography, astronomy, or like AP Bio, and I was like, I'm not fucking taking AP Bio,
Okay.
like,
AP
and
Bio is
I'm not taking fucking astronomy, like. So I took oceanography with Dr. Kidder, and that was like one of the best decisions in high school that I ever did. But I remember once early on, it was definitely first quarter. Dr. Kinder something sparked it, and he went on this like fucking rant the entire period.
oh my
The
god.
period was like an hour and 10 minutes. He went on the rant like this entire period about like how terrifying the ocean is and like how ridiculous it is that humans are like trying to colonize the moon and like get to Mars. And he's like, there's so much of the earth that we haven't explored, and like people are afraid to go in the ocean. And I was like, Dr. Kinder, you need to chill. Like, sir, please calm down. And I remember like the freshmen in that class, they had like free period or whatever, so they like had to take a class. The freshmen and sophomores in that class, because I was taking my senior year, but the freshmen and sophomores in that class were like, they would come into that class and just look at Kinder like this the entire class, because he was terrifying. Like he was a terrifying presence. Did you have physics with him? Did you have physics?
And there was one time when he made a mistake.
He's scary, isn't he? Like,
well, sort of. I mean, so there was one time he made a mistake on the board, and someone corrected him about like the math that he was writing down, and I was like, "Your powers are weak, old man."
I remember you mentioning that at lunch. Did you actually say that?
I did say it out loud. I don't know if you heard me because
he definitely didn't hear you because you're still alive. Yeah, so he definitely didn't hear you. He would have killed you. He used to scare the underclassmen by standing out in the. Remember, he used to stand out of his room.
I mean,
and,
he was like
that was a big thing for him. That was a big thing for him. Was like he would lock the door, like so if you were late, like you were fucked, like you like missed the whole period. But he would like stand in the front, in front of his classroom in that like main intersection of the hallways, with like his bat in his hand, or like holding the ruler and like smacking it against his hand like menacingly. And the underclassmen were always just like terrified of him. I remember hearing about it, I think like in band. This like group of freshmen were like, "Oh, have you seen that teacher, Dr. Kinder? Like, oh man, like I wonder what he teaches." And I remember just like laughing and being like, "Ah." He's a great dude though.
Would you like me to calculate how much force it'll take to rip your head off your I can show you.
Because he would.
That reminds me of sisters in her like college physics class. They calculated how much actual magnetic like force you would need to rip all the iron out of someone's body, because like X2 had just come out,
Right. Okay.
and so that was cool. I don't.
The number was large. I'm sure.
I mean, it was large. Like a lot of magnetic field stuff, the number's actually pretty small. Like it's, as far as compared to the actual unit itself, is like one of that unit is actually like a ton of force. And so most magnetic fields are much smaller.
Okay.
I can never remember the unit for it though. It has a B for the symbol.
I don't know. I'm uneducated about physics and magnetic forces because I took oceanography. I can tell you about plants in the ocean that don't go in the pond. Secret backstory DLC. How did we get on this? Ray Bradbury, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Jules Verne. Okay, so
Tesla. For magnetic fields, it's a Tesla. But for some reason, it has B as the symbol.
Like
Instead
a
of
Tesla?
Yeah, a Tesla.
Like the preposition and then Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nikola Tesla?
Yes.
That's strange. I didn't know he had a unit of measurement named after him. Weird.
The Henry. What does the B stand for? Anyways.
Not really. Thomas Edison's an asshole. Moving on. It's sort of related. Moving on. So we have this list, and it goes as far back as 1901. The first bit of the timeline is 1901 to 1920, and it talks about the invention of home appliances. They're not it does mention that they're not smart, but it does sort of bring up, especially looking at it now, there are so many smart appliances. Like your refrigerator can tell you what's inside it, and all kinds of your coffee maker can do all these things now, and your toaster can be programmed a certain way, and all kinds of vacuums, the Roomba or the iRobot vacuums or whatever, the robot vacuums are considered smart devices now. So I think at first when I read the article, I was like, this seems weird, but looking back on it, thinking about it more, appliances were some of the first things to become smart devices.
Yes.
Because humans are lazy. I mean, that's why smart devices exist.
I think the other thing is that this article is about the history of smart homes, and that's a good place to start, because that time period is when people started having just more devices in their home. Even if they weren't smart devices yet, it was just more technology in the home to help
as
them.
opposed to the article talks about hiring a maid. A maid would sweep your living room and it would take 7 centuries, but then the vacuum cleaner, which is considered an appliance.
Yeah. I mean,
but there was a vacuum cleaner that was powered by electricity, and then it took 5 minutes to vacuum your entire living room.
It does say apparently the first engine-powered vacuum cleaner was in 1901, and I do wonder if it ran on gas.
Gasoline.
It was an engine.
That sounds terrifying. So yeah, so in 1966 and 67, it jumps forward 40 some years, and it talks about the Echo 4, which was it could compute shopping lists and control your home's temperature and turn appliances on and off, but it wasn't ever commercially sold. I would assume, and it doesn't say why, but I would assume probably because it was ridiculous expensive.
Yeah.
And it talks about the kitchen computer, but it could only store recipes and sold, like, it was commercially sold, but it sold 0 models. I remember you talking about the tagline for that and how horrible it was.
Yeah, it was basically saying that, you know, your spouse can't cook as good as this computer can, even though the computer couldn't cook. Like,
It just
gives you recipes. So, but in the article it says because of the tagline that it sold no models, and so I don't know how true that is. I don't feel like people in the 60s were, I don't know, like, woke in the of being outraged at that.
Well, think about it. Like, so cookbooks exist, and like the home computer wasn't like a real thing. Computers, like real computers back then were like the sizes of entire rooms.
Yeah.
So this to me feels like a glorified like notepad.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, you know, like really old people, they're like, oh, like, why do I need this whatever device? Like, I could just use like a piece of paper. I would imagine it sort of like was a similar kind of feeling. Like, you know, why do you need this presumably very expensive technology to do something that you can do faster and cheaper and just like easier yourself? Like,
yeah.
does it? And maybe it was slow. Like, maybe it took like a fucking 8 million years to load or something. Like, there's all kinds of reasons that it could have like failed miserably.
Part of my thoughts on this are like, it's a bit like the US, like NASA developing the crazy pen in space.
Oh yeah, and the Russians used a pencil.
They're just like, yeah, well, like, you know, it's like, why do something fancy and expensive?
It was like $30 million or something to develop that pen. It was some like ridiculous waste of taxpayer dollars to develop a pen that could write in space. And the Russians are just like, we'll use a pencil.
Yeah. So, I think you're moron. That sounded weird. You are more correct. You moron.
He belongs to you. You're a moron.
You are more on track with why it didn't sell well
than just the tagline. I mean, the tagline probably had something to do with it with someone. Someone was probably like, "Hey, that's fucked up." Like, but I don't know. Anyway, you wanna get the next two bits of the timeline here?
So the next part is, it says like 1991.
I just wanted you to try to pronounce the word again.
Geron technology, like gerontology, technology. It's basically things to make the lives of old people easier.
Senior citizens. It says senior citizens.
I mean, they don't have to be a citizen to be old.
You're not wrong. What you said was not wrong. So, okay, I'll give that to you. You are not. That was not incorrect.
15 love. I don't know why we're using tennis scoring, but
what? Okay. Suddenly.
For some reason, you say love for like 0 in tennis.
No, I know how tennis scoring works, but like.
But the thing the thing it lists here is the I've fallen and I can't get up life alert commercials. And so yes,
fall and break both your hands though. Then you can't push the life alert button because your hands are broken.
Yep, you cease to be able to use any kind of applicable force. I mean, if it was like in a like a pendant around
You were
your
gonna say if it was in your neck, weren't you?
yeah. I meant like it was around it was on a pendant around your neck, like
Mhm.
and in your shirt. It would be hard with broken hands to get that out, but I think you like press the button with your elbow.
Probably. I don't know. Depends on how flexible you are as an
Yeah.
old person.
Yeah, no, you couldn't press that button with your arm.
We're both like trying to like,
I
doesn't
needed
work.
I needed to check. It was important. Maybe I'll be old one day.
Maybe you'll be old one day. I mean, not if you die in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, I only have 5 minutes to live, so we have to get through this article. And then the next thing it lists is 1998 to early 2000s. It doesn't really list anything. It just says that gadgets start appearing.
Gadgets appear.
What it does say though is that smart homes suddenly became a more affordable option and therefore a viable technology for consumers. So
Right.
until then, the stuff mentioned earlier, it's probably just too expensive.
Well, so
With not enough benefit.
one of the things that sort of like mentions like towards the end of that like little piece is home networking.
Hmm.
Like and I like don't. I mean, like my background in school and like what I studied and like I might take issue with this, but like originally when I thought about it, I was like, home networking like isn't like having Wi-Fi in your house like isn't a smart technology, and like I don't think like routers should be listed in like the best-selling like smart home technologies, like, but you need Wi-Fi and you need Bluetooth and you need these networking devices to run smart technology as of now. Like, you need the internet to be able to connect to your Echo Dot or to your Google Home or like for your Microsoft's AI or for your phone's AI. Like, you need to be able to connect to the internet for any of them to use any kind of like they search the internet or they whatever, they turn on this bulb that's across the room, or they turn on your car for you, whatever, like anything. But I still don't think that like just a router is like considered smart technology.
It
Like
shouldn't be.
like the router allows you to access Wi-Fi in your home, like super Mickey Mouse, like super basic kind of like this is what the router does. Like a router in your house like allows you to connect to the internet and access wireless interlinking between connected devices. That's what it does.
Yeah.
Like, so in that sort of very basic Mickey Mouse definition, like, yes, it's smart technology, and maybe that's like the product of like being alive at this time where there's like so much like technology just like exploding, kind of like everything is like new, and like there's a Dave Barry article about like buying computers, and like you buy a computer and then like there's a big dumpster outside, and like as soon as you leave the door like you throw the computer in the dumpster because it's already obsolete, because there's already something like newer and better.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, he's a comedian and like that's an article like to make people laugh, but it makes sense. Like, it's funny because it's so accurate now, especially.
We broke our promise to Claire that we may or may not have actually said out loud, so it might not have been a promise, to define smart technology.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, I'm defining what I don't think it is. I don't think networking devices like routers, like, yes, devices that are connected to your network, Like some of them are smart devices, like the Echo or like the Microsoft AI or your phone's AI or Google's AI, whatever. Those are smart devices that are connected to the network. But I do not think the networking device itself, the router, should be considered a smart device. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
So this doesn't fit a definition that we looked up a while ago, but to me, a smart device, as far as for smart home automation, is a device that not just makes things easier for you, but does things for you. So that like manages. So for instance, like a smart oven could manage the temperature. Like let's say you put in 2 different things and they need to be cooked at different temperatures or whatever. Like it could somehow, with the airflow or whatever, like somehow temperature in those like 2 sections of the oven. It's probably impossible and crazy, but I don't know, like a smart dishwasher. Like I'm thinking of basically automation. So I don't think of computers as smart technology. I don't think of computers as a home appliance. They're not something that makes. I mean, it's getting closer to that, where having the internet allows you to order groceries and stuff.
Right.
That's not. That's still. So it's drifting in that direction. That having the internet allows your life to become automated. But I also wouldn't even like smart TVs. In my own personal definition, I don't really like. Okay, it's a TV, it's voice activated, but a TV isn't a home appliance to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I think of home automation, I think of things that are controlling the lights, airflow, temperature.
Your locks on your doors. We'll get to that.
Yeah, the typical things that you like need for a house. Automated walls, which would be crazy if you could just like Rubik's cube your house into different configurations.
Sure.
Anyways, so that's for me. I think of it's more about automation of things that you like need or use in your home, and so maybe by that definition, like a smart TV is a thing. Then I think the smart, like a smartphone, it can do more, or I don't know, maybe the definition of smart is just something that can do more than the basic definition of it would normally imply.
Well, you looked it up the other day, and didn't you discover that SMART was an acronym?
Yeah. I should look that up now. Oh, but I also looked up the Wikipedia article for the kitchen computer, and it is awesome.
Why is it awesome?
Because there's just so much more.
We'll link to it in the description. We don't have. If we get into it, we'll talk about it forever.
No. It stands for self-monitoring, analysis, and reporting technology. So
that's the definition of a smart device: a device that can monitor itself and give you information based on whatever it's monitoring.
Yeah.
So by that definition, like I'm an idiot, and a router is 100% like a smart technology.
If it's keeping data on, I mean, by that definition, computers as well. If they're like sending, the usage and data reports and other things and doing maintenance, at that point, a self-cleaning oven
is a smart technology.
But only if it cleans itself on its own schedule. If it's like, I am too dirty now, I'm going to clean myself. Like
right, but you have to program it to be able to do that. It doesn't just do it like whenever it fucking feels like. You have to program it to be like, check at these times or check like this frequently throughout, a period of this amount of time. And this is what I tell people about computers all the time. People are like, "Oh, I don't understand computers," or like, "Oh, whatever." Like less so now, but this is what I tell people about computers: is like a computer is only as smart as the person using it. Like you can do crazy things with computers, but you can also just use a computer to like check your email.
Mm-hmm. Or play solitaire. You can do
Yeah.
a physical deck of cards.
Yeah, like you can just use a computer like kind of for nothing, which is like horrible and feels like a waste of money. And you know, you should be ashamed of yourself if you do that.
It's glorified paperweight.
Basically,
Okay, actually, this is just the small aside from the kitchen computer. This is the only thing that I wanted to share from it. It was offered for US $10,000,
what the fuck?
equivalent to $70,000 in 2019, and it weighed over 100 pounds. And it also had a
100? Was it made out of lead?
Also, it was nearly impossible for the average intended user since the user interface required the person to complete a 2-week course just to learn how to program the device. And then it also had a built-in cutting board. Like, of all the things, and there's a built-in cutting board. Like, could you imagine if you bought a desktop and it was like, there's a cutting board attachment, like, you can swing out. Like,
That's why the device didn't sell well, because it costs $70,000
equivalent, yeah.
and weighed
Like,
what, 120? You said 120 pounds?
100 pounds. It's 100 pounds.
Jeez, and you have to take a 2-week course just to learn how to use the fucking thing.
Yeah,
And
nope.
it's ugly as sin.
And
Like,
and it tells you that your wife sucks. Like, that's part of the marketing.
that was the tagline.
Yeah. Just
If she can
those-
only cook as well as Honeywell can compute.
yeah.
And look at the advertisement. It's so large. Like it's in the middle of the kitchen. And it's so big. It takes
Yeah.
up like most of the space in the kitchen.
Yeah.
How did Honeywell survive this travesty?
Granted, what if they had sold well? Would we have had more women in computer science? Faster.
That's what I want you to do now. Write like an alternate alternate future story about the Honeywell 316 kitchen computer selling well.
Girls. No, they're honestly, people probably still would have been sexist. They're like, oh, like I know how to program. Like I programmed this device in my home and did stuff. And like, oh, like that was a kitchen thing. This is man's work.
You get over the fact that it was $70,000. Like
yeah, that's nuts.
that's bonkers. Like that's my car like 5 times over. And some, probably. Like $70,000.
Okay, so we covered the history of smart technology and definition of it, or modern examples.
Well, I mentioned the Amazon Echo Dot, which I can't say the name of because I have one in my room, and if I say its name, it will be like, "Oh, you summoned me, master!" And it's really irritating. Although, side note, not sponsored by any of these devices, but the Amazon one, as much as I hate Amazon and Jeff Bezos is the scum of the earth, the Amazon one is by far the best because for 99 cents, you can purchase a pack that uses Samuel L. Jackson's voice instead of the weird robot computer voice. And it is the bomb. Anyway, side note. There's also, Apple has its own AI. Microsoft has its own AI built into its OS. And Google has its own AI. Which I don't... Does Google's have a name? I know the little Amazon.
Mortal tongues.
I know the little Amazon equivalent is like the Google Home or Google Mini or whatever, but does it have a name?
It is
Or do
just
you just call it?
it's just Google Assistant. That is the name. Google Assistant.
Okay. And you say, "Hey Google," and it does things.
I guess
Whatever.
its name is Google. Or I don't know, maybe it's the collective. It's like the board. You address the entirety of the company.
Well, I think actually you said that as a joke, but you might be onto something there because you would ask it for information, right? You would be like, "Hey Google, how far away is the moon?"
Yeah.
So it searches that on the internet,
Mhm.
using Google. It uses
Yeah.
a search engine to discover oh, the moon is whatever, however far away the moon is right now. I mean, I'm assuming that you believe in the moon, of course, but beside the fact.
Don't let us step on your beliefs.
But so I searched
This is
best-selling smart technology on the internet, and of course it comes up with Amazon. And it's the 50 best-selling Amazon products. And I didn't think that this would be number one, but it is a smart plug. But it makes sense thinking about how smart technology works. And so what this device is it's just a plug that you plug into the wall, of course, and whatever it connects to your Amazon, your Dot, or your whatever Home or whatever Alexa device that you have.
Buying houses on Amazon.
Well, so you can connect a bunch of stuff to it, and so the big thing is start my day, and so it turns on the lights and starts your coffee maker, and whatever. It starts all these devices for you because basically it's a surge protector that's voice activated.
Actually,
let's get to the Mickey Mouse definition of that. It's a voice activated plug. That's all it is.
No. It's actually really cool. I know about this from my power electronics class that I'm taking. So to get feedback, so the thing is, all the electricity in the United States and in most parts of the world all functions on a grid system, and because of the way it's set up, all of the energy, there's no batteries or anything, so all of the energy has to be used at all times. And sometimes we produce more energy than is consumed, and so it just goes off into heating coils instead of so there's a lot of energy waste. But to get feedback from these systems, they can put a signal that rides along the energy, and this is it doesn't make, I'm not making a lot of sense, but basically they can put a signal that rides along with the that has information about how much is being produced and stuff. And so the way that the smart plug is probably working is it is just sending a signal through your house's wiring that is read by the other smart technologies that is turning them on and activating them and everything.
Okay, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I didn't understand a fucking thing you just said. It sounded accurate, but basically, I didn't really understand a lot of what you just said.
It doesn't have to be wireless. Basically, the plug.
No, I'm not saying it is wireless.
Yeah.
It's not wireless. It's wired. It's a plug. It plugs into the wall. It plugs into your. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I think most people wouldn't, because you usually think there's a physical button on everything that has to be activated to turn things on, or it has to be, if it's wireless, it's technically always on, and then
it does have a physical button on it.
But with that, the signal is going through the actual wiring of the house to to turn off whatever. So just in case anyone's thinking the mechanics of it, that's what's actually happening. And it's the thing is, the wiring in your house doesn't have to be special for this to happen. It's just I don't know. It's just how electricity is.
I hate to burst your bubble, but it says in the description of this device, the Amazon
Zip
Smart Plug must be
wireless?
connected to a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network.
Aw, that's gay. Sorry, I shouldn't.
You shouldn't say that.
I shouldn't.
Not a thing.
That's dumb and bad.
Get wrecked.
Really?
It uses Wi-Fi. Get wrecked.
Oh, that's so dumb. Well, then why do you even need the plug?
If you're lazy, remember I mentioned this earlier in the show and multiple times off air. These devices exist because of lazy people. The American dream lives on. Like, that's why smart technology exists. Like now. Like we're already past the like quality of life improvements. It exists now because people are lazy. I'm not saying I don't use smart technology. I'm one of the laziest people I fucking know. I'll use smart technology like as much as it doesn't compromise my security. That's the point I'm going to get to right now, because I feel like I've been like holding back my soapbox this whole episode. But smart technology is terrifyingly weak. Like, it is so easy to get into smart locks, smart like home, like the Nest and the Ring doorbell and all of these things. It is so easy to get into them with like minimal information about the person that is using the device or the people that live in the home. I took a gray hat hacking course, ethical hacking course at the local college, and in this course it's like 200 level course, so you're not like just anybody that walks in off the street. It's a 200 level course. You have to have some like basic knowledge of wireless center linking and just wiring in general, and you know how the internet works, like on a physical like basic level. But within 15 minutes, we were able to access all of these devices that we didn't know. Like, we walked into the room that day not knowing what we were doing, but 15 minutes later, we were in every single one of these devices, controlling them remotely. That is scary to me. Like, that people rely, and this is the problem with people being lazy. And like, I get so irritated about it, especially because my wife is pushing so hard to get like a Nest. And so it's like a personal point of contention for me. And I love her, but we're not going to get a Nest. Like, it's not a thing. Just get up and change the thermostat. Like, people rely so heavily on things like the smart locks or the smart home controls or their Amazon Dot or this or that or whatever smart devices. But the security is garbage. Like, getting into them is so easy. And think about it. So if your smart lock on your house is controlled by your Amazon Dot or your Google Home or your Nest device or whatever, and I can get into one of those devices, I can unlock your house. I can go into your house, like, do whatever, steal things, like, plant a body there, like, literally, like, crime is advancing faster than people worrying about crime is advancing. And that's what bothers me. That's what keeps me up at night, is like people relying so heavily on this smart technology that hasn't been developed to the point where it's really safe. And yeah, whatever, these companies are going to be like, oh, but it's only like unsafe if you whatever. No, it's unsafe. Like, don't try to convince me it's safe. You can't change my mind. Not yet. You know, in like 20 years, maybe it'll be like the safest thing on the planet. But right now, it's not safe. Like, there's a meme about like people that people that don't study IT and people that study IT. And the people that don't study IT, and it says like, oh, like I have the smart lock, and I have, you know, this smart device, and my toaster has a smart device, and, you know, this and this and this. And the IT person is like, I have a gun, and I keep it next to my printer in case it makes a weird noise. Like, that's, I mean, and that's just me having the IT, like, research and background and education that I do. Like, if you have smart devices and your whole life relies on them, more power to you. Stay safe. Like, but people that know about IT and people that like studied IT, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's just scary. That's my soapbox. Rant over. Rant count 1. Thoughts?
I was very wrong. I was very wrong about the smart plugs because it replaces the normal plug, and then you have to plug the appliance into the smart plug. Yeah. I was imagining like a device that was like just like one of those like safety things for plugs, the plug covers. I was imagining a device that was like that you just like plugged into the house.
Oh, yeah, that's not how it works.
Alas.
So were you listening to that at all, or were you researching the smart plug and how it works?
Both.
What are your thoughts about the safety of the technology? Because that's really my big point of contention is it's unsafe and people are relying on it too heavily.
I think, well, for one, we still don't know a lot about just like the long-term effects of being suffused in at all times. There's lots of stuff in the tech industry that's like basically the mark for whether or not a device that emits radiation is safe is how much it heats up objects around it with the radiation, and that's the marker for that. So
that's the only marker.
Yes, so like microwaves. If you were to be microwaved, super unsafe. It'll heat you up. The stuff coming out of the Wi-Fi coming out of your smartphone is fine. It's like fine,
relatively safe.
Yeah, in that it's not heating up. It's not baking your brain. That doesn't mean that it's not affecting you, because there are like some studies that are coming out about like, you know, unsafe effects, whatever. But there's not.
There was one that you told me about that was like smartphones causing like
decreased
infertility issues.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's like, and that's just because of I don't know. A biology thing, like, you know, they're incomplete cells, so they're more
susceptible to being baked.
Well, they're just more susceptible to any interference. Really.
Right. Okay.
Not necessarily like heat. But
the heat death ostrich of the universe.
Yeah, heat death ostrich.
I was gonna put it in, like, it's in there.
Well, now it's there forever. So as far as like devices being safe, so that's one is like a mechanical safety issue. You know, we had those Samsung phones that were exploding a few years ago.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
So, but as far as like information safety kind of thing, I agree with you. We're still like the internet is still like the Wild West of, I don't know, smart people.
That's a great way to describe what the internet is. It's a great Mickey Mouse definition of just the internet in general. The Wild West of smart people.
Because you have I am seeing constantly these updates and things about new bugs and hot fixes and patches that are being put in for websites and browsers and apps and all kinds of things that use data that is connected to the internet, where just sometimes it's the physical wiring that is causing these issues, and other times it's just the design of the software that's causing issues. But we're constantly it's also like viruses and stuff. Honestly, internet viruses are aptly named. They're a lot like the flu bug in that
That's why they're called that.
there's new ones every year, and we can
There's
really
new ones every minute of every day.
yeah. But like as far as like the archetypes, like
Right. Okay.
safety most of the time is reactive to that. Like we can sort of predict what is needed to be like a safe or secure device, or you constantly have to update your virus databases. There's like entire so that's a good point.
It's an entire division now of IT is research, is reactive research.
Mm-hmm.
Because viruses develop faster than people stopping viruses. So proactive research and proactive that doesn't exist. It exists, but like a little bit, like a tiny bit, the tiniest bit possible.
The problem is it's predictive. So
you don't know. That's the other thing. Is you don't know what kind of crazy virus John Smith is gonna cook up in his basement at 13 and release onto the internet. You've no idea.
Yeah. But one thing you can be sure of though is he's gonna do it with sunglasses on and a leather trench coat, and when your system goes down, there's gonna be a GIF of a cackling skull. That's like ha 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 ha. Because media. That's how all hacking works. And he's gonna say, "I found a backdoor into the system."
In every IT class I've ever taken, and there's been a lot of them, not a single person wore a leather jacket. Except...
Very unfortunate.
Except a 100 level class that I took called IT Basics. That was a general overview of what information technology just was as a field. And he only wore a leather jacket. The professor. It was the professor. He only wore a leather jacket because he rode a motorcycle.
It has to be a trench coat. It's gotta be a trench coat.
A leather trench coat.
And black trench coat. I don't know. My brain went to leather first instead of the color. Because are they leather? I was thinking of them as shiny, friggin' the Matrix. That's what I was thinking of. Are those leather trench coats? Why are they shiny?
Because...
Yeah, they're black leather trench coats. Okay, so I wasn't wrong.
So why is this Where were you going with that?
Oh, my point is, I was just filling out the character of John Smith. I didn't want him to just be this blank slate. I wanted him to, have some character. And then he goes to his friends and is like, "Ha! I hacked into this thing on a chat room," and then it turns out it was the Pentagon and war game.
A strange game. The only winning move is not to play. How about a nice game of chess? The weirdest thing about all those movies is they give the computer a voice, which just makes it more terrifying.
Well, freaking computers didn't have voices forever. There was lots of media about it. There's a really good episode of The Twilight Zone where there's this robot that is protecting all the people from irradiated food, and there's a guy who just goes in and like talks to it, and he's saying that he's like talking to like some prophet or god or something, and then when the people find out it's a robot, they're like, oh, screw this, like we're not listening to a robot, and then they eat the food and die, and the robot's like, I was just trying to keep you safe. And then also lots of stuff in the, I don't know, 1950s about, you know, those giant room-sized computers and them having AI and like falling in love with their creator, or like wanting to have.
We're still talking about science fiction, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So it's
You can't create AI on 4 gigabytes
vacuum tubes.
4 megabytes of RAM.
Yeah.
There's not enough room for thinking.
Yeah. Anyways, device security is important.
Change your password every 3 months. Don't use any of your last, like, 6 passwords. Have at least 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, and a special character, if possible. That irritates me so much when passwords for, like, profiles or sites or whatever, like, whatever password it is, it doesn't allow special characters. I'm like, this is bullshit. I get so irrationally upset about it.
So to me, I don't think a lot of it matters, because to me, like, all of those characters are just ASCII characters. And so for like imagining, and I haven't taken any classes on hacking, but I'm assuming that when you're like breaking in to someone's password, like probably they'll run through a database of like most common passwords first, just like trying every ASCII character.
Well, okay, so here's like super basic hacking 101 kind of information. So running through ASCII characters is not, it's extremely uncommon. So the type of password like breaking you're talking about is a brute force attack, where you just like try passwords, even if it's run through a program that tries like 1 million passwords, whatever. That's a brute force attack is what it's called. So running through ASCII characters doesn't make a lot of sense, because there are so many ASCII characters that aren't and cannot be used.
Yes.
Like the stars and the weird smiley faces and the weird like the indent mark in Word is an ASCII character. Like, yeah, like all of these things are like they're not possible anywhere to use. So running through an ASCII database wastes time.
Well,
and if you're breaking into something, if you're essentially burglarizing, even digitally, something, everything is time based. So you're wasting time trying by running through this database of characters that can't and won't be used in a password. So more commonly, it just tries, like a brute force attack is kind of the worst way to go about finding a password. It's like it's breaking down the door when you could pickpocket the key from somebody.
Yeah, and
without being caught.
Yeah, and
like, why would you break down the door?
Pickpocketing is like looking in their cache or whatever to find the password, or in having a virus that like does their key mapping and everything, and
those are fun to write.
Yeah.
So.
And then you can just grab the password from there.
Digitally, we'll leave you. This is kind of going in a bunch of different directions at once, but smart devices are great. It's a very interesting new technology field. Let us know what your favorite smart device is. Mine's my watch, because it's super helpful.
Mine is my TV, because I can watch Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime. But something that I was just thinking about with like the cautionary tale of smart devices as of right now is that they are almost all connected to an account that is just the one account, or all of them, that is an email. And like That's the main.
Why do you think it was so easy for us to get into the Nest and the Lock and all of those devices? As soon as you find the person's email, they fucked. They fucked now. Like,
Yeah.
you get their email, you got everything.
So the question is, should you have a bunch of different accounts? Should you just have a bunch of different emails? Like,
You should change your password a lot. So, and this is where I was going.
Mhm.
Change your password as often as reasonable for you to remember it.
Mhm.
Write it down if you have to. Because a written note of paper in your house is harder to find than your password on the internet. That sounds ridiculous, but believe you me, it is much harder to find the password that you wrote down on a piece of paper in your house.
I mean, I've been spray painting them like on the side
on the side of your
our
house.
apartment. Yeah,
Right.
I just figured it'd be nicer that way. That way they wouldn't have to break into my house to get the password.
That's true. That's true. So change your password as frequently as is reasonable. Always clear your internet cache. You will not believe how much information is stored in Chrome's cache. It's bonkers. Use a utility like Disk Cleanup or I use CC Cleaner personally to clean your computer daily. Daily. If you use your computer at any point during the day, make it a habit. Clean it daily, because so much information is left in temporary files, cache files, just things that are just laying around waiting for somebody to get into them. Change your password frequently, clear your internet cache, use a cleaning utility tool like CC Cleaner, not sponsored, but it's a great utility for free. Update your virus program. Whatever virus program you use, even if you use garbage like McAfee, update it as frequently as possible. Stay ahead of as many viruses and as many things as you can. As is even reasonable or possible. Those are my top protect yourself tips. Another one would be, don't ever save anything that could be used to get into your money. Don't save credit cards on food websites or on your PlayStation account or in apps in your phone. Save your credit card information and your money information nowhere. Do not save it. Because once somebody has that, they can, I'm sure banks will tell you, your information is safe. It's not fucking safe. If it's on the internet, it ain't safe. It is, as Jacob says, it is the wild west of smart people. Someone has your credit card information somewhere if you've saved it on the internet. Facts. Those are my tips. Got anything to add?
No, that is very good.
I think it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
For basic, rules, I think.
Yeah, if you're the average user, I think those are all things that you can do. If you wanted to beef up your security measures further, I think you'd have to.
There are a lot of things you can do to be
Yeah.
super secure on the internet. You can use it just escaped my brain. A VPN.
Hacked into your brain.
Yeah, someone hacked my brain.
They took it.
Use a VPN if possible.
Hmm.
Virtual private network. We won't talk about it because explaining it takes kind of a long time. And I'm terrible at Mickey Mousing a lot of things like that. But use a VPN if you can. If you got time to burn, definitely 100% use a VPN.
Actually, the Kaspersky not sponsored. The Kaspersky that I signed up for, uses it. It always has a VPN.
That one's pretty good. Kaspersky and I like Tor. Not sponsored. That's the one I use
The
usually.
book publisher.
Huh?
The book publisher.
Definitely.
They have a
V-
wow.
VPN.
They've really branched out. Some of that antivirus software. Techno fantasy.
Some of the VPNs are actually very smart, and they will create VPNs within the VPN.
Some VPNs, yes.
Yeah, there are. Abby's right. A lot of VPNs, they're like, "Oh, this is safe," and it just like takes all your information, stores it on the internet. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
be safe, kids.
Be safe.
Always use a condom on the internet. That was how my my 200 level professor used to always talk about VPNs. He's like, it's like a condom for the internet, and everyone in the class would be like, So we just kept doing it.
Oh man.
Hey, people. It's a weird way to think about it, but it's super accurate. When you get down to like the basic definition. Anyway, smart technology. It's smart. It's for lazy people. But everyone's lazy in their own way. So. The end.
Thanks, Dad.
This has been an episode of the Dr. Z Show that is probably. This is one of those episodes that might put us on like a watch list somewhere.
Top 10 internet safety videos to watch.
That would be that. See, I'm thinking like FBI watch list. That's actually a good watch list.
That would be
That's
a
a
great one.
positive watch list you want to be on.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the people that are like, oh, like facial recognition is gonna let the government have your picture.
Like, lol.
Some information for you about driver's licenses. We'll let you know next time on the Dr. Z Show.
It might give you more it might give them more angles of pictures of your face, but you know, I don't know how close we are. This is just my final thought. I don't know how close we are to friggin' daytime cop drama enhanced image levels of, you know, tracking people down like that way. I don't know how close we are to that.
I hesitate to tell you about this because the first like 50 results for it are probably going to be related to porn. But look into what deep fakes technology is. Deep fake as one word.
Yeah.
That it's getting
Yeah.
scary.
True. Yeah. And someone, I don't know if it was you or Abby, someone watched a video about, or no, it was actually one of my sisters. They posted a Washington Post article about how to
Spot
like
spot the
deep fake
difference.
and crop them.
It was Jeff, I think. Jeff watched the training video.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so it was two things because sister had also posted that. But anyways, yeah. So being as the Wild West gets wilder
And Wester.
and too wild, too west. That's actually what the WW. That's what the first two W's. No. It's the three W's in WWW. It's not World Wide Web. It is Wild Wild West.
Get the fuck out of here. Let me end the show.
Adios.